Okay, confession time. I've never seen Babylon 5. I know, after calling myself a sci-fi fan in the last episode, it's shocking. The reason I feel it's important to point this out is because the internet reliably informs me that Star Trek Deep Space Nine pretty heavily copied Babylon 5's homework in terms of the setting and tone. So any praise I'm about to give it needs to be contextualised by my lack of knowledge of the apparent inspiration. So, with that out of the way, I love Deep Space Nine. I love it in a different way to the Next Generation. As reflected in the setting, Next Generation carried on the original's legacy of tackling the big ideas of existence, as befitting of explorers. This meant that most of the show's most interesting moments were pretty high-minded theoretical musings embodied by a conflict of the week that would make you think about a specific issue. Deep Space Nine, as a space station that stays in one place, allows itself to tell longer, more intertwined stories, and it gets more tangled up in the diplomatic and political wranglings of the different factions vying for power and position in the Star Trek universe. It also got significantly darker as it continually dealt with the fallout of a brutal military occupation of the nearby Bajor, and trying to keep the peace between new uneasy allies, and then eventually descended into all-out war with a new faction called the Dominion. This was the first time Trek had allowed viewers to see the darker side of Roddenberry's utopia, with the station playing host to many characters who don't subscribe to the Federation's views on things, and are willing to engage in crime and espionage and all those things the Federation wouldn't dirty its hands with. Well, not officially.
Our official designation is Section 31.
Never heard of it.
We keep a low profile.
We survive together.
What the hell is even that?
War crimes and life-altering injuries in the line of duty are explored with some real depth, and it meant the show took on a distinct identity from all the Trek before it. So how does new and different Star Trek translate to a video game? With some difficulty, actually.
Pardon me, traveller. Your face is unfamiliar.
1 year after the success of a Final Unity, you might have expected them to go with a similar point-and-click adventure game, but for some reason that wasn't what they decided to do. Instead, developer Stormfront Studios opted for a Myst-like puzzle game, where you walk around the station, and some other locations, in first person, as a kind of guest character in an episode of the show. This is a surprisingly fun alternative to taking control of the crew themselves, as this way you get to talk and interact with them as a self-insert, which is immersive in a different way. It's still really well presented as an episode of the show, complete with the full intro credit sequence in a little window here, and even a nice, exciting cold open, with you crashing a runabout into the station.
Inquaker, can you read?
Yes, Deep Space Nine. I can read.
Comms are out. Stable. He's completely out of control, and he's got a fractured plasma conduit. When any second.
Computer, create a containment field for the damaged plasma conduit.
The story starts out relatively strong too, although it does fall apart a little bit towards the end. There's a murder mystery afoot, and as Envoy, or Ambassador, Bannock, you have to work with the DS9 cast, some of which reprise their roles. Dr. Bashir and Chief O'Brien are conspicuously absent, as are the general population usually flooding the promenade. This is explained away early on by telling us there's been a plasma storm, so most people have been evacuated to Bajor, leaving just a skeleton crew on the station. Doctors and engineers obviously being entirely superfluous in the future.
Meanwhile, Dax detected the plasma storm rising unusually quickly. We scrambled to evacuate the station and seal it against the storm.
This, of course, is a flimsy excuse for not having to render more than is absolutely necessary, as rather than follow the hand-drawn cartoon style of a Final Unity, Harbinger's characters and environments are all 3D renders and models, which presumably took a lot more work, though it's questionable how much of an improvement it is visually. It's an impressive achievement, and especially striking in 1996, but I feel like just as much, if not more, could have been achieved with less. I mean, look at how Sisko introduces you to the crew.
May I introduce my second-in-command, Major Kira Nerys, and my science officer, Lieutenant Jadzia Dax.
I remember referencing this scene repeatedly with my friends back in the day, and it wasn't to compliment the animation. Look here, Odo looks like he's seen the horrors of the universe and is reliving it all right here in the room with me. Either that or he's stoned off his tits. You okay, big man? That's shocking behaviour, Constable. I'll have your badge for this. No, I'm just joking. Shh. Shh, it's okay. Shh. Let's be honest, there's a lot of rough edges in this game. Outside of wandering around and solving the odd puzzle, there are dialogue sequences like before, although you're not often tasked with anything important here like avoiding conflict. These conversations usually only serve to provide information and further the plot. The real low point though are the shooting sequences. These should be easy because you can use the mouse, but the frame rate is so low and the camera movement on the pre-rendered shooting gallery is so erratic, these are going to have you really tearing your hair out by the end.
Vanek, target's moving into your sector. Warning, shield failure imminent. Under the habitat ring, bearing 111, Mark 4.
You'll repeat these sequences so many times you'll curse their existence, and it gets even worse late in the game when an away mission sees you having to use the same shooting mechanics within the exploration bits. There's not a lot of fun to be had there, I'll be honest. However, much in the same way that grabbing the helm of the Enterprise and being able to go anywhere scratched a nerdy fanboy itch in a final Unity, the prospect of being able to freely roam about Deep Space Nine, go to Quark's bar and have a chat with him, or head to Ops and hang out with Sisko and Dax, it just felt so cool and unlike anything we Trek fans had previously had. I was willing to overlook a lot of these shortcomings, and I mean a lot of shortcomings, because look, there's Odo doing the goo thing, that's so awesome. This was another game that wasn't all that stable on my old wreck of a computer, so again it felt perhaps more advanced than it seemed now, and there was a sense of thrill about simply getting it to work. The frame rate on my machine was far inferior even to what you're seeing here in this more recently captured footage, and that made the shooting sequences even more of a chore to play, as well as pausing just long enough between different environments to make you wonder if the game had crashed. I can still hear the loud whirring noise of the CD spinning for all it's worth in my 4-speed CD drive, and just being grateful I could experience a bit of one of my favourite TV shows from my own perspective. So there are ups and downs here, and it's easier to focus on the downs from our lofty position in the future, but I'm here to tell you that at the time this game had a real charm to it that allowed it to occupy a very fond place in my memories for all the subsequent years. Look upon it now only as a curiosity, exclusively for fans of the show, and treat its flaws with compassion. We really were just getting started.
Computer, erase that entire personal log.